It's the Full Court Press with Eric Franson and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on back to the Full Court Press. I'm not sure how it sounded on the other end because I went over my allotted time. I was supposed to cut out at 4:56 and 50 seconds right on the dot. And I looked over and I was like 6 seconds over and I had to like really quickly end the thought that I was right in the middle of. I don't know if it'll sound that way on the podcast feed or whether I just get cut off and Dan Patrick starts talking. Or if it was dead air for like 6 seconds before I turned on the Dan Patrick audio. So I'm not exactly sure what that sounded like, but sorry to those listening on air or even over the podcast feed if it sounded weird or it kind of jolted at the end there. I was talking about Mia Lopez, the newest addition to the Aggies, former Logan High star here in the Valley. She went down to BYU. Was a starter, looking to be a contributor and maybe even a star for them in the future. Scored 6 goals, which was second most on the team. Started all 24 games in the midfield for them, but ends up transferring to Utah State, where her older sister, Whitney Lopez, played for the Aggies from 2020 to 2024. Spent 5 years with the Aggies and was part of some of those early, dominant Manny Martin's team, that 2024 team that was obviously, really fantastic. One of the best ever. She was part of that team. So, I suddenly can't remember now. I'm pretty sure she was part of that team because she was one of those 5th-year seniors that they all kind of stuck around and formed that fantastic team there. So, that was kind of the thought that I was finishing there before I realized that I was over the time limit. This hour, we're going to talk Utah State basketball. Utah State taking on Colorado State on Saturday at noon. And from what I hear, they're getting decently close to a sellout. I know it's going to be I don't think there's going to be the 10,270 fans because that sellout is potentially including a full student section. And I know they've sold or have at least put on sale 1,000 tickets from the student section. Basically, I think they kind of start at the top and whittle away some of those tickets. The herd agrees to give some of them back because they know that a bunch of the students are gone. They've gone home. And so a bunch that would normally be at the game, well, they're spending time with their families over the holidays, taking a well-earned break from being a college student and taking all the finals and just, a whole semester of college. And so they're not going to be at the game. Obviously, Jerrod Calhoun knows they're not going to be at the game. He's obviously not blaming their herd for not being there, but he's hoping there's going to be a lot of fans. And I imagine that the non-herd section of the stadium, about 60% of the stadium or the arena, that should be full. And I think a lot of the tickets that are kind of being sold back to the community that are normally part of the student section, I think a decent chunk of that is going to be full. And so I think you're probably going to end up with around 7,500 to 8,500 people there. I don't think they're going to crack 9,000, but I don't think they're going to be below 77,000 or 7,500. So I think it'll be loud. I don't know if it'll be quite the same rowdy and, her doing a bunch of chants and all that, just because when you're put in a bunch of people who aren't normally part of the student section, you're not going to get the same coordination, but it's going to be loud. And I think that's going to be the big key. Is it's going to be loud. It's going to be a very nice crowd for the Aggies. But the game against Colorado State, it's a big one. And we were able to talk with Coach Jerrod Calhoun and the freshman forward Adlan Elamin. Earlier today, they met with the media at about 11:30 in the Spectrum right before their practice. They've been practicing, I think, around noon because they're just trying to get used to playing and performing at that time of day. So let's first hear from Adlan Elamin. We had a chance to talk to him. We talked a little bit more about, his time as a freshman so far. Then we'll hear from head coach Jerrod Calhoun. Then I'll jump into my preview, some of the things to watch out for, some things to know about this Colorado State team ahead of Saturday's big matchup.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, you guys are. Okay.
Well, Andy, just tell us how things are going so far for you. Freshman year, feeling like you're fitting in. How's things going so far?
Everything's great. It's been a good experience, learning from all the older guys, the returners, and just like growing with the other freshmen. It's been great. Yeah.
So you've seen an expanded role the last couple of games, at least more minutes. I know you started, but you've also seen more minutes along with that. Just what's that been like, transitioning kind of early in the season from a small to a bigger role?
I mean, like playing more minutes, it's been like I just been having to, just focus 10 times more, just have way more energy in practice and everything. Just be one of the guys that's like, uplifting everybody, just like the other starters. So just taking on that role, it's like it's been good, especially with the other guys helping me.
Has there been any surprises? Anything transitioning from into college basketball? Is there any things you really had to get used to, or?
I mean, yeah, there's just things you're gonna naturally have to get used to. Just playing at a higher level, but I think just where I came from, the programs I came from definitely prepared me well for now. Yeah.
Coach Calhoun was talking a lot about practice habits and trying to establish good practice habits. What has he been preaching to you guys about what you guys need to be playing like, in practice?
We just need to play like it's really a game. Like just make everything game-like, just in terms of energy, how we talk, like how engaged we are, just our focus and everything. And yeah, when everybody's on the same page and doing that, then it's usually a good practice.
You guys played a bunch of games. Not the last couple of weeks. You had one last week, one this week.
Yeah.
What's it been like to get some time in the practice gym?
I mean, it's been good to have a lot more time to, just get work in on your own and stuff like that, and get more reps in and stuff like that. You just feel better about your game, feel more confident. I think that helps everybody.
Yeah, Colorado State, obviously in a couple of days. Just what have you seen from them as far as the challenges they'll be presenting to you guys?
I mean, we know that they're like the leading shooting team in the country. We know they have a lot of power. Like they can do a lot of things. So as long as we focus in on scout and just lock in with the coaches, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, this is a conference now. It's kind of a different, important. Every game's important, but these games become really important. Do you feel like that's been stressed by the older guys?
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like everybody's having the right approach and mindset going towards this game, first game of conference play. You want to start off strong, and I feel like everybody's having the right mindset towards that.
Defense too. I mean, coaches really preach defense, and you mentioned how well Colorado State shoots the ball. What do you guys got to do? Especially in three, they shoot the ball really well.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna obviously have to take that away, but just stay to our principles. We've guarded pretty well so far this season, so I think if we trust our principles and trust our work, we should be good.
So that's Adlan Elamin, true freshman forward for the Aggies. He started the last two games for the Aggies, not made a big difference on the stat sheet. He's averaged basically 4 points and 3.5 rebounds in those two games. But I think he's someone that's improving, and he's able to make a play here or a play there. And as I've said over and over, that's a player who right now, or of course, you should see some improvement at this stage, but like this early portion of the season is the worst he'll play, theoretically, if he's able to make improvements. Ideally, you'd be able to see him up his game to someone who can average something in the range of 5 to 6 points and about 3 to 4 rebounds. Basically, have him come in, hit a 3-pointer, or to I know he's starting, but like if he's going to play like 20 minutes a game, that's a guy who averages 5 or 6 points per game as a true freshman. But his biggest impact, I think, can probably just be being a long body out there on defense, and also somebody who can, with his length, be able to fight for a few extra rebounds. And then as well, be able to stretch the floor and hit threes. Right now, he's not shooting well from three, just 31%. He and Tucker Anderson are both kind of guys who kind of build themselves as long shooters, guys who are, Tucker Anderson 6'8", 6'9", Adlan Elamin is 6'9" or 6'10" if you go by what Coach Calhoun says. They're both guys who have had history as good three-point shooters, but they're not really fulfilling that right now, as Tucker's at 32%, Adlan is at 31%. So just need to see a little bit more from them on the three-point front. Like if those guys were a lot more consistent, you'd actually see the Aggies be a lot better as a three-point shooting team. Where right now they're kind of carried by their top two shooters, Colby King and MJ Collins. And everyone else is basically below average from three. They need some other guys to kind of step in and hit some threes for them somewhat consistently. So let's now hear from Jerrod Calhoun. He spoke with the media as well right after Adlan spoke with. It was me and Sean Harrison from the Herald Journal. That's all it was there at media today. But let's hear from Coach Calhoun and his thoughts on this upcoming game.
First thoughts on the start of conference play. I know you got one more non-conference way down the road. But.
Yeah, kind of weird that we do have that one in February, but no, excited. I think the Mountain West you've seen over the last 2-3 weeks, we've talked. The numbers look really good. I think a lot of teams are playing great basketball. Colorado State certainly fits that mold, have won 7 in a row. You look everywhere on their roster. Haven't seen too many teams shoot the ball this well, so we've got to do a really, really good job.
And they shoot well from three, too. I mean, they're shooting really well.
Yeah, number one three-point shooting team in the country. Their top two leading scorers shoot 52%, 51%. Their numbers are outrageous right now.
Is there anything they're doing as far as creating those open shots, or is it just a matter of they're just making it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a really good passing team, Jason. I've talked about that for a number of years. When you can pass the ball, the shot is so much easier. But, Jorgensen, I think, is one of the most improved bigs in the country, not just our conference. So there's times throughout the game they'll play through him. Munez can post you up as a guard. Been very, very impressed with his vision. Pasquarelli is an elite shooter, one of the best in the country.
See any similarities between the new coach and I know he was the assistant coach before. Is there any similarity to what they were doing last year?
Yeah, a lot of similarities. Princeton style, 5-man's involved in a lot of the action, setting back screens, screen-aways, great cutting team, great passing, shooting, get the thing side to side, every possession down, so they really put a lot of pressure on your defense. He worked with Nico for 8 years, so there's going to be certainly some similarities.
Jorgensen didn't play in the last game, I don't think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I didn't see the stats. I just knew that he's played well last game, I guess. But
Yeah, no, he played in the last game.
obviously, you mentioned he's somebody you got to really be concerned with.
I think what makes him, Sean, so hard to guard is, he really switches it up in his pick and rolls. Most bigs at our level, they're rolling to the basket. This guy can, he can catch in the mid post. He can pick and pop for three. He knows how to take advantages of mismatches. He's got an all-around game. He really does.
This is Colorado State. I think it's one of the slowest pace numbers, at least the possessions per game. The country is there going to be an effort to kind of speed them up, or will that impact you guys?
Yeah, I think we got to play our game. Obviously, they're going to try to come in and play theirs. We need to play faster. We need to play faster on makes, misses, get the ball out. I think Adlan has done a really good job of getting the ball out quicker. Our point guards need to spray it ahead. Mason and MJ got to sprint. We got to keep Gary on the floor. I thought that was a good start the last game, just keeping him on the floor without fouls. I thought Zach Keller, obviously that was a good move, putting him in there. So he's got to continue to run. We got to play a lot of guys. So there should be no reason that we're tired.
You've had some time out in practice too. I feel like ready.
Yeah, we've practiced, at noon, trying to get, used to an early start. Hopefully the crowd is going to be great. We don't have our students, but the general public's been awesome, and hopefully getting a sellout.
You talk about practice habits a lot. Like, what are the biggest things you want to see from your players as far as what exactly you want to see from them in practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to practice like you play, right? So it starts with, assist a turnover, got to value the ball. Starts with rebounding and just going from good to great, right? Like taking good shots. What's the difference between a good and a great shot? I think sometimes we're taking good shots. I think we can take great shots. Defensively, be disruptive. Understand our assignments. We're doing different pick and roll coverages. Just locking in on the details, right? I think that's where this team can continue to grow, is the details.
How do you, this is the first game, but every game's important, but this is a big matchup for two of the best teams like coming into this game.
Oh, it's an awesome matchup. I think both teams, not just this year and last year, but for a number of years have been really good in this conference. NBA players, former alums, with Neek and obviously Sam and Nimi. It's great basketball schools. So, yeah, I think whether it's the first game or the 20th game, as you said, Sean, they all matter. So you got to be ready to go.
So you obviously you spread the minutes across more players this year than you kind of were last year. I know we're only about halfway through the season. Maybe the returns on that aren't going to come yet, but what impact have you seen as far as playing some of your stars fewer minutes than you did last year?
I think you'll see that hopefully over time, right? Basketball is a long season, so keeping those guys healthy is the most important thing. We take a very scientific approach. Everything is, analytics and data driven. Brandon Buskey, Trevor Short does a great job. He pretty much tells me what to do at practice as far as a workload, how long we're going to practice. So everything's by design. But I think in the game, you can wear teams down. And I think Adlan obviously is getting more and more minutes. We can spread those out with Tuck. Sometimes we can go big. There's just a variety of things we can do. Same thing with Elijah. Same thing with Colby King. We've got to continue to use our bench.
That was Utah State men's basketball head coach Jerrod Calhoun. Looking ahead to the Utah State men's basketball game against Colorado State. And I'm going to actually jump back to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. 2444, like at the very beginning of the show, was asking what starting lineup do you expect the Aggies to roll out against Colorado State on Saturday, and what matchup advantages do you see the Utah State could take advantage of? And I'll kind of answer the first question here. We're going to go to break in a couple of minutes. I'll probably get a little bit more into what Utah State can try and take advantage of. Kind of in the next segment, as I'll talk about Colorado State, some of their personnel, maybe some things. I don't know if they're going to have specific matchup advantages, but there's things that both teams do well or have weaknesses against that I think Utah State will be able to take advantage of. I don't know if there's one player or one position group that I think they'll just kind of be able to go after. Kind of like how Utah State's guards were able to go after Illinois State's guards in last game, where they were just bigger and able to take advantage of that. I don't know if they're going to have quite that, or maybe that kind of specific thing they can go after. But as far as the starting lineup, I think you're going to see Adlan Elamin start again, just because I think he's playing decently well. The only thing that would make me think he doesn't start is that Tucker Anderson, I think, ended up playing more minutes. Yeah, he ended up playing against Charlotte, it was Elamin who got 20 minutes and Tucker Anderson got 12. Against Illinois State, that was basically reversed, as Tucker got 12 and I think Adlan got 13. It was 12 or 13. So maybe that, Coach was seeing more of what he wanted from Tucker in that game as far as his impact defensively and rebounding. I know Tucker didn't make a shot against Illinois State. He only took 2. But I think you're probably going to see Adlan start again. And I think you'll probably see Zach Keller start. Maybe. I don't know. It just depends on who Calhoun thinks would be the best matchup in the post against Kyle Jorgensen, who's the star player for Colorado State. He's an excellent, very versatile forward, and he's also got some size, and that's what makes me think maybe it's Zach Keller, because they went with Keller against Illinois State because they wanted someone to go one-on-one with Chase Walker, who's very big, but I think that both Tucker and Gary match up decently well in terms of size against Kyle. I think Kyle's slightly bigger than both of them. I know he's listed at 225 on this one roster I'm looking at, but I was watching film of him earlier today, and I do not believe that weight listing. I need to see what he's listed at on. It says 225 on Colorado State's website. I'm not sure I believe that 225, but I think size-wise you could see Carson Templin or Gary Clark match up with him. So that's where I think maybe Carson ends up starting in this one, because Zach started for this, I think the sole reason to match up with Chase Walker, because he had a bit more size to kind of go one-on-one against him in the post. And I don't know if they quite need that as much, although Jerrod Calhoun wants to play Zach Keller more. So you could end up seeing him start again and give the Aggies a 5-out look to start against Colorado State, which is something that I think they could certainly use. So I think it's going to be either Zach Keller or Carson Templin at that center. You're obviously going to see Drake, Mason, and MJ start at that 1-2-3. 80% chance that Adlan Elamin starts, and I think Zach Keller, maybe Carson's Templin, starting at that center spot. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. 2603 has another text, and then we'll kind of get to the other half of 2444's question, talking about Colorado State, some of the matchups and different things to watch out for with this game. That's all coming up next here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the 5th year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Now here's a concept. You earmark a third of your profits to go back into the community to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Nate Lamson, and I'd like to share with you what I know about the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service on your copier, printer, or office solution while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Visit deximaging.com. We think globally, but act locally.
Looking for comfort and convenience in Logan? Stay at the Bomb Motel for just $79 when you mention Aggie 79. Just minutes from USU. Perfect for football games, commencements, campus events, and more. Enjoy your stay without the hassle. Your sure stay Bomb Motel offers cozy beds, free continental breakfasts, and a seasonal outdoor pool. True comfort and value. $79 rooms with Aggie 79. The Bomb Motel. Call 435-752-5220. That's 752-5220 today.
Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm.
With down-home country prices and big city selection.
E-I-E-I-O. When you're looking for a friendly spot to drive a little and save a lot, hey, Old McDarrell has a farm, an appliance farm. No overhead, but lots of country charm. See Darrell's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
Hi, this is Ashley with LSS Insurance. Medicare can seem complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Let us help. We'll answer all your questions and get you specific information that fits your needs. Medicare is not one size fits all. We'll help you find the right coverage for you. Call 752-9493. You can ignore the TV and the junk mail. We'll get you the exact information you need. We will help you access the benefits that are important to you. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493.
Your side. Women can have it all, including heart attacks. But symptoms like jaw pain, nausea, unusual fatigue, dizziness, and backache are often different and more subtle than for a man. The fact is, heart disease is the #1 killer of women. Know the signs. Learn more at getheartchecked.org. From Women's Heart Alliance, in partnership with Women Heart.
When facing cancer, no one need be alone. Learn more at breakawayfromcancer.com.
The Aggies are #1 here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
at Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning, now's the time to feel the love and the savings with current tax credits and government rebates. You can save to up to 40 and 50% off on new heating and cooling systems. Call now. Rebates end this year. 435-557-4181 from residential tune-ups to commercial HVAC projects. Mountain Valley has you covered with highly trained and experienced technicians. Call 435-557-4181 or go to mtnvalleyhvac.com and start saving while you feel the love. So talking Utah State men's basketball, and they've got a big matchup with Colorado State this weekend. And going to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, first 2603, saying just 2 points per quarter, 4 per half. Will get a player 8 per game. Role players need to find a way to get just 4 per half. And certainly that's, I think that's, something that'd be good for role players. Like that's hitting 2 shots per half, or like if you're someone who scores 20 points per game, like hit 1 shot per stint. What kind of ends up making that a little more complicated is that if you're scoring 8 points per game, like say you're Adlan Elamin, where he's playing, at most 20 minutes per game, 8 points in a 20-minute per game, role. That's roughly equivalent to scoring 11 to 15 points per game, depending on minute output. Like if you play 35 minutes, that kind of output, 8 points in 20 minutes, that equates to about 14 minutes or 14 points in 35 minutes played. And the trick there is like Adlan isn't getting the plays called for him. He's not getting the volume touches and open shots that other players are getting. So like, I think when he gets open shots, he needs to take them and he needs to make them. And, landing in that 4 to 8 point range is probably where he should be. Like, is he going to score 8 points per game? Probably not. But that's something that he should be able to attain on a semi-regular basis. And that's something that the Aggies need him to do, particularly just by hitting 3-point shots. If he hits most of his open 3-point shots, he's going to reach that mark, more often than not. Tucker Anderson too. Like if you can get like 12 points per game out of Tucker and Adlan Elamin, I think that's a good output for those two guys. Because they're going to give you about 30 minutes a game between them. And if you can get 12 points out of a 30-minute stint from your forward spot, that's pretty good production, all things considered. And then 2444, talking about, what matchups do you see that Utah State could take advantage of? And I was doing some of my prep work for this game earlier, and as far as matchups the Aggies can try and exploit, I think the general thing to look at with Colorado State is the fact that their defense isn't particularly great. Just when you look at their efficiency, their defense, according to KenPom, ranks 181st in Division I. And that's the 3rd worst defense in the conference. Worse than UNLV, who's a 4-6 team. It's worse than Fresno State, who's 6-5. And the only teams that are worse is San Jose State, who's 5-6, and then Air Force, who's 3-9 overall in the season. So again, Colorado State 181st in defensive rating by KenPom. And that's, again, you're basically almost in the 200s there. So that's something that I think the Aggies can take advantage of. And I think in particular, they should be able to get points in the paint. They're one of the worst teams in the country at getting blocked shots. They're one of the worst teams in the country at getting steals. And they just don't force turnovers in general. They're in the bottom 15 in forcing turnovers. Mind you, Illinois State was that way, and the Aggies still turned the ball over 16 times. But Colorado State, again, they're 306th in steals percentage. They're 350th, again, bottom 15 in block percentage. The Aggies should be able to get into the paint, and when they get there, shouldn't really have to face that much in terms of, guys swiping at the ball at least aren't going to do it very effectively. And then when they get to the rim, they're not going to face a whole lot of resistance in terms of high-level shot blocking. You know, they do have some length. Kyle Jorgensen, 6'9". Kerry Booth is their 6'10" forward. But he's only 203 pounds. He's not a very bulky or strong player. And as a team, they average 1.4 blocks per game. And Kerry Booth, averages, between Kerry Booth and Kyle Jorgensen, they're 6'9" and 6'10" front court. Those two players average 0.9 blocks per game between them, and they both play north of 25 minutes per game. So these are guys that do not generate blocked shots. And then, there's another aspect of rim protection where it's just, do you hold opponents to low percentages around the rim? Well, Colorado State ranks 285th in 2-point percentage allowed. So teams are shooting very well inside the arc against Colorado State. And Utah State has been pretty solid inside the arc at generating points inside the paint. They've had some struggles at getting their shots blocked. For instance, they're 260th in getting their shots blocked, but even with that kind of struggle that they've had there, they rank 35th in the nation in 2-point percentage, and a decent chunk of that is just their ability to get points in the paint, especially at the rim. They've got slashers like Mason Falslev, guys like Carson Temple and Gary Clark, who've been able to get shots at the rim, and MJ Collins is able to get to the rim at times. Colby King is even pretty decent at it for being a 6'2" guard. So the Aggies have some players that can go in there and get some points in the paint, and Colorado State, based on what they've done so far this season, have not put a whole lot of resistance against teams going inside. And so that's something that the Aggies should be able to take advantage of, especially if they're able to protect the ball. Then this is a game where Utah State could have a very efficient game on offense. It's hard for me to put an accurate total on this because I'm not sure how many possessions they're going to be in the game, but it's the kind of, they could have the type of efficiency that they had against Tulane or against Davidson if they're able to protect the ball because of what they might be able to get inside the paint. The tricky thing with this is that they may not be able to get a ton of points just because the game might be a little bit slower. Utah State's going to try and push the pace, and you heard me ask Coach Calhoun about this because Colorado State, they rank 362nd in possessions per game. Their average offensive possession is like they're 351st in their average possession length on offense, according to KenPom. Colorado State plays at a very slow pace, and they've held opponents to fairly slow paces as well. Or at least they've faced teams that are a bit slower. So that's where they're they're the fourth slowest team, or at least they have the fourth fewest possessions per game, again, according to KenPom. So this is going to be a bit of a slower game. But one thing that's remarkable about Colorado State is that despite being the fourth slowest team in the country, they rank 58th in points per game. And one thing, for instance, if you're wondering why I always cite like KenPom's adjusted offensive efficiency or adjusted defensive efficiency, is because I am a almost staunch opponent of using raw points per game and points allowed per game as metrics to evaluate offensive and defensive effectiveness. Because there are teams that average 75 points per game that are great offenses, and there are teams that average 75 points per game that are bad offenses. And pace has a lot to do with that. And you can say the same thing about defense. There are defenses that allow 75 per game and are horrible defenses, and there are teams that allow 75 points per game that at least aren't horrible. Maybe most elite defenses aren't going to allow that many, but like pace matters. You need to look at pace. Like Wyoming, they're a team that actually is first in the Mountain West in points per game, and it makes them look like, oh, this is the best offensive team in the Mountain West. Well, when you adjust for pace and different things like that, Wyoming they're 86th in the nation in offense, which still puts them in the top 5 in the Mountain West for offense, but they're behind Utah. Well, they're behind Colorado State, Utah State, San Diego State, and Nevada. So like this is why I go with offensive rating and things like that, because you get a better picture, and it's largely because of pace. And to give you an idea, to kind of showcase where pace can kind of come into this, Colorado State, again, fourth slowest team, they average 85.7 points per game. Let me go through some of the teams around them in terms of pace. For instance, Towson, they're, I think, either the third slowest or fifth slowest. They're like right above or below them in pace. They average 68.4 points per game. So these are the peers in terms of number of possessions. Appalachian State, 75 points per game. Again, 10 fewer than Colorado State still. Boston University, 73.5. Again, these are all teams that have a similar pace to Colorado State, and they're averaging is almost 15 points less per game in some cases. There's Houston, for instance, who has a similar pace. And mind you, this is 10-1 Houston, who's 9th overall in the country, according to KenPom, in their overall team rating. They score 78.2 points per game, which is pretty good given the pace. But still, that's like 7 points per game less than what Colorado State is doing, again, on a similar pace. And it's why KenPom has them, despite Colorado State being 58th in points per game, it's why their offensive rating has them at 17th in the nation, 121.9 offensive rating. This is a team that is absurdly good on offense right now. They're number 1 in 3-point percentage. They're number 12 in 2-point percentage. They're number 2 in free throw percentage. This is a team that when they attempt a shot, they are very likely to make it. And it's absolutely absurd. And that's just going to be the challenge of the game, is finding a way to slow down Colorado State. For instance, I isolated their games on a neutral court when they played Virginia Tech and they scored 64 points. That was one of their losses. When they played Wichita State and they scored 76. And they played South Florida and they scored 83, which those are 3 of their lowest point outputs of the season. And even then, they still shot like 53% from the field in some of their lowest output games. And that kind of tells you like what you're looking at with Utah State, or with Utah State and their challenge on defense, is slowing down what is just an elite offense. Now, is it a hopeless endeavor? No, it's not hopeless. You know, Virginia Tech held them to 64 points. Multiple teams have held them in the 70s. Heck, Dartmouth held Colorado State to 76 points in a game. Like, it's something that the Aggies can do, but it's a challenge that they absolutely have to be ready for. 8968 saying, if Colorado State is so low in some of their rankings, how are they on a 7-game win streak? Did they schedule that soft? I don't think they really scheduled that soft. They're also not on a 7-game win streak. They're on a 5-game win streak. They beat their 5 games. They beat Wichita State, South Florida, Colorado, Dartmouth, and won a non-Division I game against Northern New Mexico. And I think the big reason why they're not so high in the ranking is because their defense hasn't been particularly great. And they also have a loss to Denver, who ranks 300 in KenPom. That's really holding them back. They lost at home to Denver. So I think that's really holding them back, where they've got 3 wins over top 100 teams in KenPom, but they have the 2 losses. There are some rankings that still have preseason bias mixed in there. I forget where they're at in the net. I don't have the rankings pulled up in front of me, but like, they're a top 100 team. I mean, KenPom has them at 62. So they're not that low. This is going to be a quad 2 game, I believe, for the Aggies. But let's go ahead and take another break, and I'll go over one of the key players for Utah State to defend, Kyle Jorgensen. What are the things to expect from him? What are the keys to defending him? What do the Aggies need to do against this player? We'll have that and be back after this here on the Full Court Press.
Kids get snow days, contractors take winters off, but Top Shed doesn't. Snowing, freezing, Mother Nature throws a tantrum, we keep building. From sheds to backyard retreats to chicken coops, Top Shed builds on-site in your community across northern Utah, southern Idaho, and Wyoming. If your backyard's ready, we're ready, because Mother Nature can't cancel us. Top Shed, making sheds great again. Call 435-760-7766 or visit topshedusa.com.
Addiction is the one thing that everybody knows about, but not many people talk about. If you're finding yourself in a situation where you're struggling with personal addiction, or maybe you love someone who's struggling with addiction right now, our friends at Renaissance Ranch have a place where you can go for healing. And they focus on more than just the addiction. They help your family heal too. Addiction doesn't just impact one person, it impacts everybody it touches. Learn more at renaissanceranch.net. Also, you can visit their location right here in Logan.
Hi, it's Emily at Serenoni, and our holiday sale is happening now through December 22nd. Come shop in store only and save up to 40% off select blankets and gifts. It's the perfect time to find gifts for everyone on your list, from babies to teens, grandparents, neighbors, and anyone who could use a little extra comfort this season. Because when you give a Serenoni blanket, you're giving more than a gift. You're giving warmth, connection, and comfort they'll reach for every single day. Shop our store on 10th West between iFit and Saitiva. Serenoni, wrapped in comfort, gifted with love.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
It's ski season, Cache Valley. This is Mark at The Sportsman, where we mount bindings. If you need bindings mounted to your skis or snowboards, in most cases, we can do it in 48 hours or less. That's right, 48 hours or less. At The Sportsman, we can also tune, sharpen, wax, and repair your skis or board so they are ready for the season. Usually, we can get those done in 48 hours as well. For 73 years, we have been taking care of skis and boards only at The Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan, with tons of parking in the back.
You do amazing things every day. And we're not just talking about your pregnancy. You do it all. So why risk letting COVID-19 stop you? COVID-19 vaccines are especially important during pregnancy. Take control of your health so you can keep showing up for the ones you love. Get the COVID-19 vaccine to protect yourself and your pregnancy. It's safe, proven, effective. You could say it's pretty amazing, just like you. Message brought to you by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Visit acob.org/COVID vaccine to learn more.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Right now, with every non-current sled purchase, Young Power Sports of Logan gives you $1,000 worth of Klim gear for free. Jackets, bibs, helmets, build your own dream kit and walk out ready to ride. All snowmobiles are the lowest prices in the entire region, guaranteed. Save big on the sled, and you get $1,000 of Klim gear on top of that. Young Power Sports of Logan. Get out and ride. So, Utah State taking on Colorado State. Some big challenges for the Aggies, particularly on defense. There's some things they need to take care of on offense, but they're going up against a defense where they should be able to attack some of those things. But they need to actually take care of those. They need to hit some threes, and they need to attack the paint on defense. And if they do that, they're going to score enough on offense to keep themselves going against Colorado State. Now, what are the challenges for Colorado State? Now, their top guard, Josh Pasquarelli, he's been having a fantastic season, 14.5 points per game, only playing 29 minutes per game. Like, Colorado State has a lot of great depth. They've got 8 guys deep. Rashawn Mbemba hasn't even been playing most of this year. I can't remember if he was going to be back for this game or not, but he was a big presence for them. Going to be a big presence for them inside, but he's only played 2 games. He's had an injury. Forgot to check up on whether or not he was going to return, because I think he was set to return soon, if I'm not mistaken. But you got Josh Pasquarelli, again, who's technically their leader in total points, but that's because Kyle Jorgensen has missed 1 game this season. But Jorgensen is averaging 15.2 points per game, so he's their per game points leader. And so 15.2 points per game, just under 6 rebounds, just under 3 assists. This is a guy who's a 6'9", 230-pound forward who's like third on their team in assists. Mind you, Colorado State averages 18, almost 19 assists per game. They pass the ball incredibly well. You heard Jerrod Calhoun talk about that as well. That's part of what gets them a lot of open shots. Like they pass well, and that gets them open shots. And so they're able to, just move the ball into good space. That's what Jerrod Calhoun's been wanting his team to do. And sometimes getting it, sometimes not. Colorado State does that. They pass the ball incredibly efficiently, and that gives them open shots. And they've been making those shots kind of at an absurd rate. I don't think that the rate they're hitting these shots is going to hold throughout the season, but they're still one of the best teams in the nation at hitting shots. Now, Cal Jorgensen, he's a guy who posts it up a lot, and he's really good in the post. He's like, I think, I had the rank he was at. He's like 12th or 13th in the country in scoring in the post. 14th in points per possession on post-ups. He's elite in the pick and roll, 32nd in the nation in points per possession on pick and roll. And he does a really good job of blending the, face up, pick and roll, like post up. Like basically he's a guy who hits from the outside because he's shooting 51% from 3 on 3 attempts per game. So pick and roll, pick and pop, whatever you want. And when he starts a lot of his post ups from fairly far out. Like he's not one of those guys that just dominates you inside, gets good post position, and then one quick move and he's shooting a layup. He's a guy that will go from a face up into a post up, back you down, not as much of a bully ball, but there's a lot of finesse in there. And the fact that he's a great shooter and has fantastic touch, that's something that, helps him to just be what has so far been a hyper efficient shooter. Again, one of the most efficient players in the country across multiple different types of scoring. Again, post ups, pick and roll, spot up, anything he's doing, he's been hyper efficient. And so I think the key here is how are the Aggies going to use their zone against this? Because Colorado State may get a little bit thrown off by the zone. Mind you, they do have, Ali Farokmanesh faced the Aggie zone last year as an assistant coach, so he's seen it. He knows what it's like. So he's going to try and prepare these guys. Most of these guys didn't see it last year, so it's just going to be kind of their first live reps against this. So that might throw them off. The coach will try and prepare them for it, but, the best laid plans are always thrown off once you find yourself on the field of battle. I butchered that quote from Napoleon, but you get the idea. And so that's something that could maybe flummox Colorado State, but then you're going to see them adjust things, as the game goes on throughout the end of the first half and then into the second half. They'll make some adjustments, and the Aggies will have to be able to counter what adjustments Colorado State tries against that zone defense of the Aggies. So the zone's going to have to come and play. You might see them just let Jorgensen isolate. They let Chase Walker isolate, and they're not really going to be able to have, the bodies to throw it a double team with Jorgensen because he's just going to pass it to a wide open shooter. And Colorado State has 5 players on their team who attempt at least 2 3-pointers per game and shoot better than 43% from the field. And they have a 6th guy who attempts 2.5 threes per game and shoots 39%. So they have all of the great shooters that you could want. And so you can't really double team. So you might see them just have to let Jorgensen go one-on-one. You're going to have to hope Carson Templin, Gary Clark, and Zach Keller can guard the post without fouling. And that's going to be a big key there. But I'm also curious how well the Aggies are able to turn Colorado State over. They're a team that's kind of middle of the pack in not turning the ball over. They rank 184th in their own turnover percentage. So the Aggies might find some ability to get Colorado State out of its groove by forcing turnovers, making Colorado State kind of speed themselves up. And I think that ends up being the key on defense. It's not just hoping they miss shots. It's making them think faster, think on their feet quicker, get in the passing lanes and force them into turnovers. And then that knocks their confidence. They're always looking for, the surprise blitz from the backside and, Mason Falslev sneaking up behind or Drake Allen. And that may end up being the key. along with just rotating well on defense. Because if the Aggies don't rotate well on defense, they're going to end up giving up a lot of wide open 3-point shots to the number 1 3-point shooting team in the country. We're going to take one more break. We'll be back after this. Wrap things up here on the Full Court Press.
Happy holidays from the entire team at Adams Wealth Advisors. As we celebrate the joy of this season, it's also time to plan for a financially sound future. Wondering about tax strategies or required investment distributions? Adams Wealth Advisors has the answers. The Adams Wealth team is here to guide you through any complexities and ensure a prosperous new year. Happy holidays from Adams Wealth Advisors, where achieving your financial goals is their mission. Call today to schedule an appointment, 752-1702, or search Adams Wealth Advisors online.
Looking for a luxurious local space to host your next gathering? The Hive Event Center in downtown Logan brings modern elegance to your wedding, private party, or business event. Your guests will be amazed at the glamorous design, and you'll benefit from the advanced tech included in every rental, from DIY parties to full service packages. 255 South Main in Logan behind Beehive Grill. Luxury lives here. The Hive is your place to gather.
Luxury lives here. Luxury lives here. The Hive.
See us online at thehivelogan.com.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. We've been thinking about what you're going to get each other for Christmas, and we want to help out a little bit. Jewelry. The bling is cool, but didn't you do that recently? USU season tickets. No. Well, maybe. And if you do, call me. We'll go together. A hot tub. Yeah, they're cozy for 30 minutes, but let me suggest something that'll keep you cozy and supported and help your day go better. A mattress at My Mattress. The best time of the year to buy is right now. Come in today and sleep better tonight. The best Christmas gift possible.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. And one thing we talked about the other day was Joel Klatt, who he basically talked about how the NCAA tournament was a joke because of, doesn't crown like the true champion, or I don't remember the exact quote there. Basically, he called out the NCAA tournament, and then he had his name slapped all over the press. Aggregators had an absolute field day with it. I mean, obviously, we talked about it on radio. I'm sure plenty of other people talked about it on radio and on podcasts and all that. So he ended up on his own show, his own podcast, kind of following up on his comments where, again, he referred to the NCAA tournament as a joke.
I had an interesting take. It was a bad take. It was a terrible take. To be fair, what I said on their show on Monday morning early was sloppy and worded wrong. And so it was kind of like I landed the plane, but it was in a cornfield. And so we had to hit the eject, and it was we kind of the plane didn't crash necessarily. Here's the deal. The NCAA basketball tournament, if the objective was to crown the best basketball team of the college basketball season, then it's a bad format. And because of that, then it's not fair, is what I said. And I said, is a joke. It's the dumbest. And that's obviously going to grab headlines. And again, that's stupid of me to use those terms. But the structure of the NCAA basketball tournament, its objective is entertainment. It's meant to be a gauntlet. So the point is the best college basketball team for the year doesn't always win the NCAA basketball tournament. That tournament is set up to just crown its own champion. It's a made-for-TV entertainment event, and it's great. And by the way, I do love the NCAA basketball tournament. But if you're asking me, is it structured properly to crown the best team of the season, then the answer is no. It's a hot take. It's a bad take. Not everyone's going to share that with me because everyone loves the entertainment value of Cinderellas in the NCAA basketball tournament. But here's the thing. If you're actually honest with yourself, you love the Cinderellas early, but late, You want to see the best teams playing against each other. You want to see incredible regional finals. You want to see Kentucky and Duke with Leitner hitting it at the buzzer.
All right, so I'm going to cut off a little bit there because we don't quite have enough time. But I wanted to get through a few of those key points, especially that part where he talks about Christian Leitner. And I posted my own response on social media. And the first thing I wanted to say was I'm glad that he followed up and actually clarified. And I kind of knew what he meant there, or I felt like I knew what he meant. And then his clarification, what I was thinking he was trying to say ended up being the case. Because I actually, weirdly enough, share his opinion in that if you're the NCAA tournament and your goal is to determine who is truly the best team in college basketball, a single elimination 68 tournament is not a great idea. If your whole purpose is determine who is the best team out of all these, single elimination tournament, not it. And I've gone into detail about that, and we can go into detail later. I've shared my thoughts on that before. But the problem I have, as much as I would give the flowers to Joel Klatt for clarifying and not doubling down on a stupid take, he's just clarifying what he said. His thing about how, you don't like Cinderellas. You like Cinderellas early, but, you want to see the best teams. And I was like, no. We want to see good basketball and good stories. Joel Klatt wants to see the Big Ten and the SEC play each other. And he tries to hide behind, at the end of the clip, he talks about you don't have to agree with me. That's my opinion. It's like, well, you just tried to assume what everybody else enjoys. That everybody else enjoys what you enjoy. No, that's your opinion. You like this. You don't like Cinderellas. You don't like it when the Cinderella makes it to the Elite Four. You think that's bad. A lot of other people do not share that opinion. A great many people don't share that opinion. A lot of people want to see the Cinderellas in the Final Four, and then they want to watch them in the Elite Four. They want the good stories. And then they fondly remember all of the moments where the underdog went far. And very rarely have they actually finished off the job, because usually one of the best teams ends up winning. But, he cites, Christian Leitner in the NCAA tournament. He cites that as one of the things everyone wants to watch as far as the iconic moment. Well, that moment where Leitner hits what is still one of the most iconic shots in NCAA tournament history, that happened 33 years ago. And what's happened since? Look at all the iconic moments in the NCAA tournament since. The one thing that Joel Klatt could think of is an iconic moment that didn't involve mid-majors, where he had to go 30 years in the past to find an iconic NCAA tournament moment that didn't involve a mid-major. Well, you have George Mason making the Final Four in 2006, Steph Curry making his run with Davidson in 2008, Gordon Hayward in 2010 with Butler back when they were in the Horizon League, and one of the most famous missed shots in NCAA tournament history. Kemba Walker with UConn in 2011, his iconic run as a 7 seed with UConn to the national title. UMBC in 2018, winning over Virginia, one of the most iconic victories by anybody in NCAA tournament history. People remember watching that game more than they remember some of these other games between, power conference teams. You have Sister Jean, one of the icons of the history of NCAA tournament lore. And she was part of a mid-major Loyola Chicago team, also in 2018. Then you have Farley Dickinson over Purdue in 2023. San Diego State, their buzzer beater against FAU in 2023. I went to look at the most iconic moments in the NCAA tournament, and most of them involve mid-majors. So no, Joel Klatt. People want to watch mid-majors. People want to see those stories. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching, listening.